必要なものは私のスタンドである。必要なものは信頼できる友である。必要なものは極罪を犯した36名以上の魂である。必要なものは14の言葉である。必要なものは勇気である。朽ちていく私のスタンドは36の罪人の魂を集めて吸収。そこから新しいものを生み出すであろう。最後に必要なものは場所である。北緯28度24分、西経80度36分へ行き、次の新月の時を待て。それが天国の時であろう。
I would love to come to an introduction for you guys on this, but I'm going to be fully honest with you. This is about the 5th time I wrote for this script, that being due to moments of me getting really deep into it and then piecing the information like, oh my god, I made another connection, and that being followed up with me being both upset and happy because 1, there's a deeper meaning, but 2, that means even more scripting, and I can't even count how many times I had re-recorded this. I think I'm on like number 16 right now. Dio's plan for heaven. What does this all mean, and how exactly was it even created? Dio had spent 90 plus years underwater, so there's not a lot that he can know about with time going by while he's out of commission. But right after that ridiculously large amount of time, Dio had from 1983 to 1987 to further his research. Because vampires don't stop, they keep going. You could lose your life, but it's gonna keep going. Dio's home is found in Egypt, yet he meets Pucci in America, showing that Dio had to have been mobile during the years of his activity, and of course, why would he be mobile? He has decades that he had missed and he needs to catch up on, and along with that, you have Dio's search for power. He had to have gone deeper than others if he had gotten into contact with Enya too, because stands being the phenomena that they are is under the surface of regular society. With being one of the earlier stand users, he had to have gone deeper with the power of stands. After practicing his ability of stopping time and realizing how powerful said ability is, he had to have wanted more power because it's Dio. Having one thing isn't enough with him. You can't just have a new loving family after having a terrible life and father. You have to destroy the family that wanted to help you out. You can't just stop time. You have to have the ability to overwrite reality itself. Well, for Dio, he finds information and then he jots that down into his little diary. In that diary that Jotaro burns and Pucci gets through the memories of the diary. But what was in the book? Now we don't actually know what's in the rest of the diary, but we do know a specific excerpt. I would actually love to know what's in the rest of the diary, and I would love to say that maybe Araki would make a real life copy in the future, but Araki doesn't have the best memory, and he tells us that a lot. Along with that, he gives us examples of it, like when he tried to name a stand Earth, Wind, and Fire when he kind of already did that, but it's okay. Araki gets a pass because he's such a good guy and he's pretty. Now for the excerpt, the beginning explains itself, but then we get into the 14 phrases that someone has yet to decode. Until now. But first, what you need is my stand, the world. What you can find beyond the powers of my stand is where you need to go in order to find heaven. What you need is a trustworthy friend. He must be someone capable of controlling his own desires. He must be someone who is not interested in political power, fame, wealth, or sexual desire, and who chooses the will of God before the law of humans. Will I, Dio, be able to meet someone like this one day? What I also need is the lives of more than 36 humans who have sinned, because those who have sinned harbor a strong power within. There are 14 phrases that one must keep in mind. Spiral staircase, rhinoceros beetle, ruined town, fig tart, rhinoceros beetle, Villa della Rosa, rhinoceros beetle, singularity point, Giotto, angel, hydrangea, rhinoceros beetle, singularity point, secret emperor. Now for the most of this you can understand it until you get to the 14 phrases. The friend Dio was searching for ended up being Enrico Pucci, and the 36 sinners ended up being the 36 prisoners from the Green Dolphin prison. Dio's stand the world was dead along with Dio, but substituted with Dio's bone, but then you get to the 14 phrases. Now some of you will be quick to mention Over Heaven, the light novel. Let it be known that it's not canon, and for the most part that'll be pretty underwhelming and confusing. But onto the 14 phrases. Let's go through these in order. Spiral staircase. The first thing I had thought about when thinking of spiral staircase was what possible correlation would this have to heaven, because it's the first line mentioned. First. The first of everything. That's when I thought of both time and humans, because having the ability to connect to mate in heaven. Time itself can be thought of as time spiraling down into a loop, or at least when it ends. But at the same time, time doesn't end. But this is the beginning. beginning of life too. But what's the beginning of all life? What do we all start off with while spiraling? DNA, the code of all life and the spiral that begins with everything. So we can assume that this symbolizes the beginning of all, but what does that come into with the story? Is there anything in Stone Ocean that comes to mind when I say DNA? What if I say Kendrick Lamar? I got. What if I didn't mention it as DNA? What if I said ACTG? Well, you should know, since we do see a lot of ACTG in the beginning on the body of Enrico Stand Whitesnake. But since we're also talking about Poochie, let's go further on into this by counting prime numbers. With prime numbers, did you know that you could spiral forever? Ulam spiral, or well, the prime spiral. With 1 being the beginning, you can further this construct of numbers further and further, but no matter what, you don't have to worry, because no matter how far you go, you will always have connection to your 1, meaning that your connection to 1 is indivisible, both figuratively and literally. And in Poochie's case, his connection to 1 being indivisible reassures himself and helps him calm down. Well, why would a connection to a number calm him down? But it's not a connection to 1, it's his connection to the only one, Dio. Because no matter how far any situation spirals out of control, he's still connected to Dio. For the sake of understanding, we're going to have Spiral Staircase symbolize the beginning. Now onto Rhinoceros Beetle. Rhinoceros Beetle? Why? What religious significance would a rhinoceros beetle even have? Aside from having a pretty cool subfamily name, there really shouldn't be much. Subfamily. The subfamily of the scarab beetle family. Scarab beetles having a huge effect on history through Egypt. Egypt's connection to heaven and all religious significance is that specific religions originate from Egypt, but then stray away when furthering on into history. And then you have Dio, who literally had his home in Egypt. He had searched for information around the world, yet it led all the way back to Egypt. But back onto scarab beetles, there's this Egyptian god Khepri, not the Overwatch player, the actual Egyptian god, the Egyptian god of rebirth. Khepri was believed to renew the sun each day, and along with that he had his name connected with the Egyptian language, with the verb Khepr meaning to develop or come into being. So the connection development with renewing the sun, this is the symbolization for days passing, possibly even more time if it's meant to be in a longer amount of time. He says rhinoceros beetle 4 times, and if it's supposed to be a longer amount of time, then that means you could possibly connect it to the 4 seasons, or you could have it connect to the development in himself after pursuing the 4 Joestars, killing George, Jonathan, Joseph, and well, pretty close to ending Jotaro. Or you could connect it to the 4 stages of development that the green baby goes through. From Dio's bone to green baby to sea moon and then to made in heaven. You know what? We're going to be going with that for now. Rhinoceros beetle equals development. Onto Ruin Town. Which I think is one of the more easier things to symbolize. Ruin Town being the apocalypse, the end of it all. By itself it doesn't look like that it makes any sense, but we're going to have to connect all the dots when we have it done. Now for the next one, Fig Tart. Let me ask you guys a question really quick. Are you guys familiar with Adam and Eve, the whole basis of the beginning, Genesis and all of that? Now tell me this. What was the fruit that Adam had ate originally that he was forbidden from? Pause the video, leave a comment even, I don't mind. If you guys know so much. Good? You guys got it? Alright, good, got it, cool. Well, if you answered apple, of course. Why wouldn't it be apple? It's not called an Adam's orange, is it? Except it wasn't an apple. You've been played. Congratulations, you played yourself. See, going back on Genesis, they never disclosed what fruit it was. Yet Adam and Eve used fig leaves to conceal themselves. There's a theory that the forbidden fruit was actually a fig. Figs are one of the oldest known fruits, and the convenience of them having a fig tree with fig leaves to conceal themselves, it just connects the two. But fig tart doesn't actually symbolize an actual fig tart, because why would it? That would mean Dio is just hungry. Well, there's 2 things to take from this. It can either be a symbol of defying the Lord or a curse. Adam and Eve had defied God, but Jesus had also cursed a fig tree, so which is it? The answer is neither. Yeah, I lied. There was actually one thing to take away from this, but it does come from the second option. See, when Jesus had cursed the fig tree, this became known as when he had demonstrated his authority over nature. So what's the symbolization for this? Well, since we're focusing on Poochie and not Dio over heaven, we're going to have this power over nature, which is actually pretty interesting considering that his brother is weather report. Well, you know, He controls the weather. Next is Rhinoceros Beetle being brought up for a second time. Then after that is Via Dolorosa. Via Dolorosa being the way of suffering, way of sorrow, or just known as the painful way. Even Dio says that the road to heaven is a long one, so the symbolization being struggle, pain, or any type of difficulty on the way of heaven. Rhinoceros Beetle is brought up again for a third time right after, so having Via Dolorosa and then Rhinoceros Beetle symbolizes that the pain had led to another development. Now, on the singularity point. An actual singularity point can correlate to the meaning of the symbolization. On the physics of space, in the center of a black hole, there is this single one-dimensional point. In this ridiculously small point, density and gravity become infinite, and space-time is curved infinitely. With the connection of sea-moon and how Made in Heaven works, even though we don't have an explanation yet, we can assume that there's a line between singularity point and the point of singularity. When it comes to what singularity point actually means, we can just refer to the manga. The flow of Made in Heaven is shown, and right there after the end of the universe you have singularity point. Now this is where you connect the end with the actual end. In this singularity point, the original world had ended, and now the new one is birthed. So a singularity point is basically a point where the end has ended, but the beginning hasn't began yet. We can piece it together for the exact symbolization when we're done, but for now this is going to be the end. On to the next one that I had originally butchered. It's not Gyoto, obviously. It's Johto. Johto, not a place or thing, but a person. Wait, is a person a thing? Yeah, I'm not gonna touch that one. Well, Giotto di Bondone is an artist from the times of the Renaissance. He's apparently the first of a good amount of artists during that time. Now, Giotto has a lot of works on Christ, and while it would be nice to find the connection to one specific painting, that's not exactly why Giotto is mentioned. See, his art can be taken as a visualization of the Bible, or well, I'm sure that there's a better forming of words to explain what he does, but you can get what I'm getting at. Giotto will be symbolized as visualization, especially with being right after a singularity point. Since it's right after, it can be interpreted as the beginning being not exactly visualized, but being able to see because it's coming into form. Now, going on to Angel. This for me was one of the more difficult ones because in the case that it would be just for Dio, but since this worked for Pucci too, it's odd. See, my speculation would be that the angel, being the messenger, would just be Pucci delivering exactly what Dio had needed and other points that connect. But think about it exactly. Who had helped Pucci conduct the rest of his plan, even when it was against their will? It was none other than Jotaro Kujo himself. Now think about this. If Jotaro had never actually read Dio's diary and burned it just for being Dio's, then Pucci's plan would have never came into fruition. He would have no way of knowing how to achieve heaven due to him not being the one that had gone to such lengths for research, and it would have to start from scratch. Jotaro had wanted to save the world from Dio, but by him being too observant, he had ended up being the reason for Made in Heaven succeeding. But the symbolization will be around the area of messenger, but also a plant initiator. Now, hydrangea, which is a plant or a flower, not exactly how to classify these differently. I don't want to be flowercist, but I didn't take botany. I had originally thought that hydrangea would just mean blooming since it's a plant and that's what plants do. But the problem is that, why hydrangea? There has to be something behind that. And there was, except it was right in the open. Hydrangeas are plants that need a lot of water, and needing a lot of water connects to its name. Hydrangea is made of two Greek words, hydros meaning water and angios meaning vessel. But a water vessel is a symbol of baptism, so hydrangea has to stand for cleansing. But wait, baptism itself is a symbol of regeneration, rebirth even. But Caleb, there isn't someone that came back from the dead. Ah, but that's where you're wrong, guy that didn't ask a question. There was a rebirth in a sense in Stone Ocean. That rebirth had came to be Green Baby, the baby that was created by, quote, Dio's bone, end quote. Reason why I'm using quotes is because it's from Jonathan's body, meaning that it's Jonathan's bone. That's the reason for the stars. I'm not exactly sure how genetics work when it comes to the fusion of Jonathan and Dio because of Green Baby, Giorno, and Dio's other kids. But going back into hydrangea, it's a symbol of rebirth connecting to Green Baby. Then we get Rhinoceros Beetle for the fourth time, but then we get our second coming of not our first phrase, but our beginning phrase, singularity point, which we established was the end of ends and the start of beginnings. But now it's the second to last phrase, with the last phrase being Secret Emperor. Now, why would we get a second beginning? Well, that's because it lies in Secret Emperor. The Secret Emperor, you fools, you had no idea the whole time. He was behind it all. The true key to heaven was Whole Horse the whole time. Well, actually, sorry, Whole Horse, you don't get to be a part of this, but your tarot card gets to. See, I had known about Secret Emperor this whole time, but I had to find background to confirm my thoughts. The Emperor tarot card is a symbol of power, authority, and fatherhood, and it does make sense because look at the card alone. But the question is, why secret? Why is the Emperor a secret? That's when it hit me. Maybe the Emperor isn't a secret, as in you're supposed to keep the Emperor's existence in the shadows. Maybe the reason why the phrase is Secret Emperor is because it's an emperor that we don't even know what they look like. Someone that's above us that's supposed to lead us, but we don't even know what they sound like, look like, or even smell like. Then when figuring this out, I was like, God, I can't figure this out. Get it? Because, you know, following a guy we've never seen, faith and all that stuff, it's God. Secret Emperor is God. And then that's where it all came together. The reason why Singularity Point was right after Secret Emperor is because it was a transition into the beginning of God. We finally have all of the pieces to make this up, but now let's read this over. Spiral Staircase, Rhinoceros Beetle, Ruined Town, Fig Tart, Rhinoceros Beetle, Via Dolorosa, Rhinoceros Beetle, Singularity Point, Giotto, Angel, Hydrangea, Rhinoceros Beetle, Singularity Point, and Secret Emperor. We have all of the pieces. What does this all mean? Why the prisoners? Why needing sinners? What is heaven? That all will be answered in the next video. Scripting this now, this is almost like 12 pages, which probably means that the video is pretty long, and looking at the recording thing, I can easily tell you that it's probably 16 minutes. I had given you guys all the pieces for the puzzle, but we're going to piece it all together in the next one, so don't worry. Just like the video and or subscribe so I know that you guys did like the video and I could put this on the priority list ahead of the other stuff. And I really do wish that, I hope that you guys like it, because the research all together and the idea itself, it took me like about maybe 2 months or so to get this all together. So I really do hope that you guys like this whole video and took my time onto it. I'll see you guys in the next one though. So peace out. And Godspeed.